Cheat Code, Support Strategist, by Clouds. My Head in the Clouds, Not Coming Down, on AO3. Chapter 46, Wisp. Ochako looked at Midoriya for a long moment, then promptly burst into tears. Oh, thank goodness! Please tell me you know what's going on. Midoriya gave her a sheepish smile as he sat down on the bed beside her. Not yet, but we're gonna figure it out together, okay? We can do this. Ochako took a deep breath and wiped her eyes. Yeah, we can do this. What do you need to know? Midoriya grabbed a notebook out of his pocket and opened it to a fresh page. Alright, so first of all, do you know where you are? Well, you're entering on Island, so... Ochako thought for a moment. Well, either I'm on Island, somehow, or you came back early. Midoriya laughed. It's the first one. Do you know how you got here? Was there a villain involved? No, I was at Gunhead's agency, so there wasn't a villain. Ochako racked her brain. One minute I was sparring with Shinso and... She felt gravity shift again, but not as intently as it had last time, and she was still in the hospital when it righted itself just in time for her to throw up again. Thankfully, the nurses had the foresight to put a tub beside the bed, and Midoriya just tossed his notebook out of the slash zone and rubbed her back until she was finished. Ugh. Ochako wiped her mouth. I'm sorry. That's gross. Well, you are suffering from quirk exhaustion, Midoriya reminded her. Which, well, what else do you remember? Well, it's kind of like what happened just now. Ochako grimaced. I was completely fine this morning, but then I got really dizzy, and all of a sudden, I was someplace else. Izuku made a note of something. Any other details? What were you trying to do during the sparring? What were you thinking about, etc.? Ochako thought for a moment. I mean, in the sparring, I was just trying to keep Shinso from pinning me, but I was also thinking about how, once interchamps were over, I needed to talk to Mei about... Izuku jerked back in surprise as Uraraka just disappeared in thin air. Sure, there was a slight trace of some sort of light, but mostly she just simply blinked out of existence, exactly like Shinso had described. It was a weird sight, and he almost didn't believe his eyes, but at least now he could form some theories. Dr. Shield, he looked up from his notebook. You wouldn't happen to have any equipment for measuring gravitational fields on this island, would you? The moment Ochako felt gravity shift again, she tensed. Even though she'd have been expecting it this time, the bed disappeared out from under her, and she was still shocked, and she didn't have nearly enough time to get her feet under her before she was falling on the floor hard. Seriously? Which one of you beautiful babies decided to fall off the... Mei circled the table and stopped, and she blinked where she saw Ochako on the floor. The gesturing look, even more strange, with the way her eyes were magnifying underneath her goggles. Oh, hi, Gravity Girl. I didn't see you come in. You're supposed to be missing, so how did you get all the way out here? Ochako groaned and flopped down on the floor. Yeah, that's what I'd like to know. Mei hummed. Well, as long as you're here, you may as well earn your keep. I need some extra set of hands. Ochako nodded and groaned as she stood up. She still felt unbearably nauseous, but she didn't feel like she was going to lose what was left of her breakfast at any moment, so that was a positive. Maybe it was because she didn't go as far this time, but, of course, that brought up the question of why she'd gone at all, and Ochako wasn't sure she really wanted to know the answer to that. Mei handed her what looked like the handle of a lightsaber. Just hold that part steady, all right? Ochako nodded again and let Mei do her thing. But her thoughts started to spiral again and she bit her lip nervously as she remembered the reason why she'd been thinking about May in the first place. Hatsumi? Do you mind if I ask you something? Sure, but Hatsume's too formal. May tightened another screw. I thought I told you to call me May. Ochako half smiled. Yeah, why did you choose to go into support? May grinned. It's fun. I get to make so many wonderful babies. Ochako frowned. And, is that why you wanted to have your own company too? I could work for somebody else and still make cool stuff. May stuck out her tongue in disgust. But if I'm gonna make these babies, I want everyone to know who made them. It's branding. One day, I'm gonna be famous for all these beautiful babies. Just you wait and see. But Ochako struggled to find out a polite way to phrase it before realizing that May probably didn't care. Isn't that kinda selfish? Yeah. May tightened something else on her device. So, Ochako stared at her. So, May crackled. A lot of people have this really stupid idea that being selfish is bad. Just like they think failure is bad, but failure is how you make wonderful babies. If being selfish helps motivate me to be a better inventor, then why in the world wouldn't I get to do that? Huh. Ochako blinked a few times, feeling like the world had shifted underneath her in a way that wasn't literal. I guess I'd never thought of it like that. That's because too many people limit themselves and don't give into the best ideas, May declared, tightening one final screw and taking the device from Ochako. If something isn't helping, throw it out. And if something is helping, then make it a part of the design. Ochako smiled as May turned on the device, only to frown when nothing happened. May, however, just shrugged and threw the device over her shoulders. The original design was better. Back to the drawing board. Ochako laughed. If at first you don't succeed, then use that failure to fool your next success. May returned a wide grin. Hand me that wrench. Oh, I'm glad you're all right, by the way. Sorry, I forgot to mention that. Shinso said you just went poof. Ochako groaned. I don't know. Before I came to talk to you, I was hoping that Midoriya could. The gravity shifted again, and Ochako had to resist the urge to scream in frustration as she found herself on a random street somewhere. She was just so done with the whole thing. She felt emotionally and physically exhausted, and she just wanted to stay still for a little while. Was that too much to ask? At least she was finally getting used to the sensation. Ochako still didn't know what was going on, but she was almost certain at this point that it was One for All's fault, even if she couldn't pinpoint how. Alright, so maybe she was trying to push all that power down until it blew up hadn't been the best idea, because her new quirk obviously wasn't letting her repress it anymore, considering she could potentially end up halfway across the world with just a stray thought. Alright, how did I do this last time? Ochako grumbled. I was thinking about Midoriya and gravity shifted, and Ochako felt a brief sense of pride until she looked around at her new location. Midoriya was nowhere to be seen. You've got to be kidding me. Izuku popped his head into the lab. Hey, kind of a weird question, but have you seen Uraraka? May looked up from her current project. She just popped out. Of course, Izuku groaned. Did she give any clues where she was going? Nope. May shrugged, then thought for a minute. But I thought she was talking about you when she disappeared. That's... Alright, that makes sense. Izuku scribbled a few things down in his notebook. Her quirk must be using people to anchor her when she warps, but the only question is which people, and of course, where she ended up this time. If you were her anger point, Izuku, May pointed out, then shouldn't she be with you? You'd think so, but no. Izuku jumped up and sat on the table. Her quirk uses gravity, but that's such a widespread force that she'd probably only be able to approximate her target, at least right now. May hummed. I didn't even know she could teleport. Neither did she. Izuku shook his head in amusement. I'm still trying to figure out why, but it's like her quirk got more powerful overnight and now she's dealing with a new magnification of it. It's really cool, but she hasn't had any time to develop the ability, so she doesn't have any way to stop herself from warping. Or any way to predict where she'll end up. May finished. She pushed her project to the side and started grabbing more materials. Well, I can help with one of those. Dr. Sheard smiled and lifted the tarp. It's been a while since I had an excuse to dust off this old baby. Melissa rolled her eyes. You realize you could have taken it out for a spin anytime, right? You're just old and boring. Is that the car you and All Might used during his study abroad? Izuku's eyes widened as he dissolved into a muttering storm of facts. The technology was state of the arts at the time and still holds up under today's standards. The engine alone is... Come on, Izuku. You can't nerd out in the car. May grabbed him by the collar and halted him in the back seat. The device in her hand was only mostly finished, but Dr. Shield had been tracking the gravitational fields around the island, and Uraraka's warps were becoming more frequent, so they needed to find her before she accidentally ended up in water or something. All right, Midoriya, your turn to navigate, Melissa said, strapping herself into the passenger seat as Dr. Shield started the car. You connected your laptop to the gravity sensors, right? Yep, Izuku said. I'm probably gonna have to write a program to really track her, but for now these readings will at least tell us where she moves and give us the general ballpark of where she is. Oh, she moved again. Head west. Ochako sighed and tried not to think of anything at all as she made her way down the streets. Too tired to pay attention to the weird look she was getting for wearing a full hospital gown in the middle of the city. At least it wasn't one of the ones that was open in the back. But honestly, at this point, she didn't care. Maybe, if she just didn't think, she wouldn't find herself suddenly halfway across the city with no way of knowing where she'd end up. She passed a fast food place and only hesitated for a moment before muttering, "Screw it." An electrical bell chimed as she pushed open the door and looked at the poor cashier's face when he saw her was way more funnier than it had to be. But Ochako was too tired to laugh or even really care as she walked up to the counter. Hey, do you guys sell ginger ale? Yes. He looked her up or down, and Ochako knew she should be embarrassed, but she just found herself halfway wondering whether they'd turned her down for violating a no shoes, no shirt, no service policy, or whether they'd just roll with it. The cashier hesitated for another moment before meeting her eyes. I'm assuming you don't have any money with you. She warped again, Izuku yelled. Oh, she's closer this time. Where to then? Dr. Shield stopped the car, ready to double back if they needed to. Where is she? She's... Izuku looked at the screen, and his eyes widened. She's 2 streets over. Great, we could cut through the alley. May grabbed his hand, and Izuku just had enough presence of his mind to set down his laptop before she was pushing him from the car and running towards the alley. Wait, Melissa called. Shouldn't we... Sorry, we'll meet you there, Izuku yelled back. It was only a few seconds before they were running out onto the next street, which was more crowded than the one they'd just come from. Excuse me, has anyone seen a girl in a hospital gown? Ochako slipped on her soda and took a deep breath as she ignores the stares of the other patrons. She wasn't nearly as nauseous as she had been when she first got into the Island, and she could feel herself steadily regaining energy, especially with the way that One for All was buzzing just underneath her skin. But she still wasn't used to it. It would have been nicer if One for All come with an off switch, because the way things were going, she would have to shower in a bathing suit for the foreseeable future. She slumped further down on the hard plastic seat and took another sip, only partially sitting up when she heard the bell of the door chime. "Hey, Gravity Girl!" May grinned as she bounced up to her table. "Happy birthday!" But it's not my birthday." She stared at May in shocked confusion as she grabbed Ochako's arm and fastened something around her wrist. "Nope," May confirmed, "but I got you something. That's a tracking bracelet. I'll make you a better one when we get back, but this little baby will keep us from having to chase you down again. We'll be able to see where you are, even if you accidentally warp yourself into America." Ochako shrugged. "Oh, God, I hope that doesn't happen." "Unfortunately, it's a possibility." Izuku ran up to them, hands on his knees as he caught his breath. By the way, even if it does, we'll be able to find you." "Okay, yeah, that'll be nice." Ochako nodded gratefully. "Thanks, May." "Now come on! We gotta get back to the lab so I can get back to working on my babies," May said. "And not that hospital gown isn't a statement piece, but we should get you in some actual clothes. Come on, let's go." Ochako stood and stretched. Yes, please, and thank you." The two gremlins led her outside, where a red sports car was waiting to pick her up. She recognized the driver from her unfortunate arrival, and he smiled when she slid into the back seat. "You must be Ochako Uraraka. It's nice to officially meet you. I'm Dr. David Shields, and this is my daughter Melissa." Ochako grimaced. "Sorry about, you know." "No, don't worry about it," Dr. Shield laughed. "Honestly, now that we know you're not a security threat and we figure out how to get you in, it's more entertaining than anything else. Freaked us out for a bit at first, but we're good." "Well, I'm glad someone found it entertaining," Ochako grumbled. "I honestly wasn't expecting to learn how to teleport when I woke up this morning." "I know. Everyone back in Japan was really—" Izuku's eyes widened. "Wait, May, did you ever tell anyone we found her?" May frowned. "No, I assumed you told them, and then I was too focused on tracking bracelet to think about anything else." "I believe that our people were focused on making sure our security was up to date and incorporating a warning for gravitational shifts." Dr. Shield scowled. "How did we forget that?" "Didn't you even call them Midoriya?" Melissa asked. Izuku groaned and put his hand on his head. "No, I was busy trying to figure out the quirk science of how she was even warping. Everyone's probably still freaking out." May shrugged and grabbed her phone. "Well, better late than never." Shota wasn't doing well. All the teachers had been called in, and some of the more adept reporters were starting to realize that something was wrong. Uraraka's parents had been contacted and were with the police escort, but there wasn't a whole lot they could tell them. Their daughter had been missing for over 4 hours now, and they still hadn't found a single lead. He, All Might, and Tsuchiyaki were all gathered in Nezu's office, grimly combing through the mere evidence they could find as they came to terms with the fact that they had failed as teachers and as heroes. His phone rang, and he took one look at the 10th caller ID before picking up. "Hatsume, please tell me you're safe. I really don't have time to deal with, or energy, with you two—" "Oh, I know," May interrupted. "I thought you might want to know, we found your missing student." Shota immediately sat up straight. "You found Uraraka?" How did you even... Never mind. I'm putting you on speaker. Where is she? May crackled. She's sitting right next to me. Say hi, Gravity Girl. Uraraka's voice sounded tired, but she was there. Hi, Sensei. Sorry for worrying you. Nezu came closer to the phone. Never mind that, young lady. Are you all right? I'm tired and overused my quirk, but I'm already getting my energy back. Uraraka's voice echoed with a kind of forced cheerfulness. Don't worry, I'll be fine. I'm glad to hear it, Nezu said. Although, if you are with young Midoriya and Hatsume, then... Yeah, that means she's here on Island, Midoriya said. It's complicated. It took us a few hours to even realize she was here, but we're working on it. I'm assuming that Shinso was the one that told you she was missing? Shota asked tiredly. I would probably lecture him about confidentiality, but I guess it's a good thing you were aware she was missing. Oh, I'd almost forgotten about Shinso, Uraraka fretted. He's probably so... Shota looked at the receiver in confusion, as there was a brief shout, and then he heard the phone drop, and the audio become slightly muffled as Midoriya started speaking. Uraraka, focus on me, okay? Don't think about Shinso or anybody else. Just focus on me and Mei, and where we are right now. And she's gone. Mei, already on it. There was a sound of shuffling as the phone was picked up, and Shota looked at the others in confusion and worry. What did Midoriya mean, she's gone? Sorry, I really didn't think she had enough energy for that already, Midoriya finally said. But, good news. Uraraka's back in Japan, and we'll send Shinso her location so he could pick her up. She's back in Japan, All Might stuttered. Young Midoriya, that's at least a 5-hour journey. Midoriya sighed. Not really. Do you want the short explanation or the long one? Nezu took the phone. I believe any explanation will do at the moment, Midoriya. Thank you. That made Midoriya chuckle. I guess that's true. Well, basically, I guess I should start by saying that Uraraka does not have a gravity-canceling quirk like we thought. Her quirk, which I think got a lot stronger recently for some reason, is just some sort of gravity manipulation. And since, according to theory of relatively gravity, is basically just bends in time-space, then, well, I can use gravity manipulation to warp. Mina finished. She uses people as her anchors? Most likely people that she already used her quirk on. Midoriya interrupted. Otherwise, she would have teleported to you, Eraserhead. Yeah, that. Mei agreed. But she can't control it yet, which is why we fitted her with a tracker. She's across town from Guthen's agency, and I'm sending her location to Shinso now. She'll probably be a little worse for wear when he finds her, Midoriya added. The warp here knocked her out for over 2 hours. Let us know if you have any questions. Good luck! Mei hung up, leaving a room full of shocked adults to process whatever that had been. Well, All Might cleared his throat awkwardly. At least it wasn't villains. That's actually a really interesting combo of One for All with Uraraka's quirk. So I'm guessing in this instance, it made Uraraka's quirk more powerful. Therefore, it wasn't no longer just anti-gravity, right? Her quirk is gravity manipulation. Therefore, when One for All got infiltrated within her quirk, it made her own quirk even more stronger, so that the actual manipulation part of her gravity quirk seemed more big and more complex now that it has grown in power, so that's why she's able to warp, kind of things, which I think is a very interesting concept that I really am interested to see more of. But of course, I would love to hear your things in the comments of what you think about this chapter, and specifically Uraraka's quirk so far, because it's a really interesting development. But as always, Make sure to eat, sleep, drink water, take your meds, have a wonderful day or night. Join our community Discord server, link is in the description. Subscribe to see more of my content, and thank you so much for watching.